So cute. Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a so fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1455, which means I have 5 sleeps until we get to celebrate 4 years of continual live/podcasts. Wow. That's that's quite a deal when you think about it. But we'll talk more about that on Monday when we get to the 4-year anniversary thing. But what happened today? We had day 3 of the IGHR, which is International Genealogical Historical Research, and we had a great day. Today we learned about legal foundations of genealogy, some of the legal terms that we may come across, some of the legalities of research and things. We also learned about rural research strategies. So when we're going into those little places, those little towns out in the middle of nowhere, what records would they have? Where would you go to find them? What sort of records could you find in those areas? What happens if the courthouse had burnt down? How else can you find records in that area too? So that was kind of cool. We learned about research strategies with female ancestors, and that was very interesting. Back to that in a second. And then the last one was local land records about analysis, correlation, and interpretation, and that was really cool too. But my big take, and then I just got off the town hall they had about becoming an accredited genealogist, and that was fascinating about all the steps you have to go through to do that. And you actually, when you do the accreditation, you actually go through, you actually specialize in a region. That's like, ooh. And in some cases, you might have to learn a second language if there are more than one language, if there's languages spoken there. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that could get interesting. So anyway, but it gave me an insight into something that I've kind of heard about but never really looked into. So I was very interested to see to hear the presentation and to see what it was all about. And I got a ton of notes and learn more about it. So I could then, when I go for my accreditation, I'll be able to have AG after my name for accredited genealogist, which is a big deal in the genealogy world. So it was very interesting learning about that. But back to female ancestors. This one just astounded me. I mean, we learned a lot today about how to find females in genealogy, how to look at a male's records to see if you could find the female's name, because a lot of times, especially in like newspaper societies pages, it had, Mrs. Horace Smith, and Horace Smith would have been the husband. What was the wife's name? No idea, because they just addressed her as Mrs. Horace Smith. So it was looking at things like that about how the female's identity was tied to the male's identity, and it got interesting when we learned about the hang on, I got to go to my notes over here. Then we learned about that on March 2nd, 1907, the Expatriation Act came into effect, which meant that any American woman, born in the US and was a US citizen, if any American woman who married a foreigner, so somebody from a completely different nationality who was not a US citizen, shall take the nationality of her husband upon marriage. So it didn't matter where they resided. It didn't matter that she was born in the US and he wasn't. It meant that she lost her US citizenship and became a citizen of the country that her husband was from. However, if her non-American husband became a naturalized US citizen, the wife would regain her American citizenship. I was like, wait, what? I'm like, oh, how long did that go on? And we found out it went on until September 22nd, 1922. So just over 15 years. That is what was in place. If you were an American-born woman who was an American citizen and you married somebody who was not an American citizen, you lost your American citizenship and took up the citizenship of your husband, whatever country he was from. So say, for example, you got married to somebody who was German, You are now considered German and not American. I know. I can hear you going, wait, what? But on September 22nd, 1922, the Cable Act repealed the 1907 expatriate, oh God, it repealed that act from 1907. But then if an American woman, after September 22nd, 1922, if an American woman married a non-US citizen after that date, she did not lose her American citizenship. If they were married before September 22nd, 1922, and of course, she's taken over his citizenship, lost her American one, and the non-American husband was granted the US citizenship after September 22, 1922, the wife would not regain her American citizenship, and she had to go through the entire naturalization process as though she was a true immigrant. I'm just so like, wait, what? I'm like, oh my gosh. And that was that long ago. 1922, that was 100 years ago. Jeepers, that was 100 years ago. Dang. Wow. Whoa. Okay, so that was not that long ago. And I got to go look it up, but I've got to see when America started giving women the right to vote and that sort of thing. And if they had the right to vote during that time, they would have lost that right. They would have lost a lot of their American citizenship rights because they were considered as immigrants. And I'm like, and they could still be living in the same town that they were born and raised in. And they met, this guy from another country. He comes in, they get married, they live in the house that she's been living in, or they buy their own place in this little town that she's been living in, and she has no rights as an American citizen. I'm just so like, that kind of sucks. But thankfully, some people saw their way 15 years later and they got it repealed. But still, if the husband became, so my question then was sort of like, because I was thinking of some of the records I've been looking through for immigrants coming into the US during that time between 1907 and 1922. My question was, if a family from another country comes in, so there's the husband, the wife, and their kids, if they come into the country between 1907 and 1922, and the husband applies for citizenship and is granted as a naturalized citizen, does his wife and children automatically become US citizens as well? Based on the age of the children, well, the wife, yes. The children will be based on their ages. There was a certain age. I don't think they mentioned what the age was, but I'd have to find out what that age was. If they were over a certain age, they would have to apply for their own citizenship. But the wife, because it was during that time between 1907 and 1922, the women, when they were coming in with their husbands from a different country, and they had a different nationality and everything else, no US-born citizens, they were just complete immigrants coming into the US. If the husband applied during that time and was granted naturalization, the wife and their children, based on their ages, would also be granted naturalization as well. Which, when you're looking for genealogy records and you're looking for naturalization records and stuff, that's why during that period, you may not have found any naturalization records under the wife's name. They were all under men's names. But the wives would be mentioned on the husband's petition for naturalization, because that's a very detailed document. I love looking for those petitions for naturalization, because on there, it's the applicant who's providing the information. They provide their name, their full name, their date of birth, where they were born, if they're married, what is their wife's name? What is her date of birth? Where was she born? Is she still alive? So if she's not alive, they want their death date. The number of children that are with you, and their names and dates of birth and where they were born. What else was on there? Were their parents on there too? Try to remember if his parents were on there as well. But it also had listed his occupation, where he was currently living. There was a whole wealth of information you could pull off the petition of naturalization. But you would not, during 1907 and 1922, you would not find very many female naturalization certificates, because I guess the only time you would find them is if they had come into the country by themselves and were single and applying for citizenship. But after 1922, you would start seeing more females applying for citizenship, especially if they got married before 1922 and the husband's naturalization stuff didn't come through till after September of 1922, then the wife would then have to apply for her citizenship. whether she was born in the country or not. So it was just very interesting just learning that today. That was sort of like a real eye-opener as to how women were treated, and in some cases they had to have the men conduct sales for them, conduct other any legal stuff had to be done for them. In the cases of divorce, of course, they couldn't get their husband to be their voice because they were divorcing them, so they would have a next friend who was a male who would come in and represent the wife and it wasn't a lawyer, it was just a friend that would speak on her behalf to the courts and that sort of thing. So it was just very interesting that the woman did not have an identity. And some of that went through a lot of years, even up until I think it was like the 1970s or something, that women could not have a credit card under their own name if they were married. The husband had to apply for it for them or stuff like this. And I'm just like, wait, what? And I'm trying to think back in New Zealand, was it the same way? And so now I'm going to go research that. But I know for a fact that in 1893, New Zealand granted women the right to vote. And as far as I recall, they were the first Western country in the world to do that. And there's some countries that didn't give women the rights to vote till like the 1930s. So it's been a tough ride. And I know that I have great grandmothers and great grandmothers that were suffragettes in New Zealand. And my second great grandmother, my father's grandmother, yes, my father's grandmother on his dad's side, was one that signed one of the petitions and stuff. And it was really cool, but because I found this printout I found an image of it online, and there's like I'm like going through all the names there, and there's this name that's been like, you have a piece of paper and all the lines are filled up, there's 2 columns going, all the lines are filled up, but then down in this little piece down here was her signature. I was like, that's so cool. Oh, I got to see my second great grandmother's signature there on the bottom of that piece of paper. And it literally was underneath the last line. It was the last signature on that page. But just knowing that, this is some of the things that our female ancestors have had to battle with or deal with and that sort of thing. And I know there's been stuff out there about it all the time, but this it just hit a button in me today. I was so like, wait, what? And so I was like, oh, okay. But then I forgot to ask the question, if the husband is American-born and marries somebody who is not American-born, do they automatically become a citizen? So I didn't ask that. I should have asked that question today too. But, we had a lot of great fun today, a lot of interesting stuff today. And I'm kind of excited because it's coming as a fire hose, a lot of the stuff. But while it's making sense as well, because I've done the previous 2 classes, the last 2 years, I've done the 2 classes prior to this, the beginners and the intermediates. And so, yes, it's coming at me at a fire hose. Yes, I am still learning a lot. But I'm learning a lot in different ways. I'm building on what I have already learned. Oh, and then the really cool part was I won a door prize today. Apparently at lunchtime, they had some drawing or something, and I wasn't. They've been having these different networking things at lunchtime, and I've taken that opportunity to go get a nap, to eat, get a nap, play with Zeffie. And where is she? Are you even in here? Zeph? No, she's not in here. So, I've been using the lunchtime to kick back, relax, get away from it all, make lunch, play with Zeffie, take a nap, because we get 90 minutes, for lunch. So I've been taking that time to do self-care so that I'm ready for the afternoon. So complete break from the computer, and do that. And, and my biggest laugh today, this was hilarious. I have a friend who always says that this is a form of measurement. He always precedes this quote as a form of measurement as a crap ton. It's a real form of measurement. Well, today I heard it in a different way. This was from a lawyer who turns around and says, and this is a technical legal term crap ton of, I just started laughing. So yes, I sent that message off to my friend to let them know that, hey, there's somebody there. Oh, I wonder if that's my ink cartridges. Wow, that was quick. My printer's running out of ink, and I ordered ink cartridges to be delivered between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. and they just got delivered. I just saw the person walking past the door. Some watchdog you are. Should never know. Anyway, so yes, I thought that was kind of funny. But then also learning about hang on, what's the official thing is International Commission for the Accreditation of Professional Genealogists. So they had a presentation on it, what it is, what it involves. There's 3 different levels you have to get through in order to complete the qualification. There's written tests, there's oral tests. There's a ton of work that has to be done. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I can do that. Yeah. Oh, what area am I going to spend? And you have to specify a region. And if you want to do more than one region, then it's more than one application you have to do, because you get tested on that region, and any of the tests and anything else. And the people who are evaluating you during the oral exam are people who are proficient in that region. So I'm sort of like, oh, yeah. And I'm looking on there and I thought, they don't have New Zealand on that list. Huh. And then I suddenly thought, oh, you have to brush up on my Maori, because I haven't used Maori in a long time. I use just the occasional phrase here and there, like kia ora and hei kone rā, but not the everyday speaking stuff. I haven't written in years, haven't read it in years. Used to do all in school and high school, and all through my school years in New Zealand, we had some portion that was Maori. Studies, culture, all that sort of stuff. So I got a lot of it back then, and it's changed a lot, because now they've added all these little accenty things above the letters and stuff, which now changes how you say the vowels, or the words and stuff. So I got to go back to school on Maori to start learning that if I want to specialize in New Zealand for my accredited genealogy certification. I've got to go learn Maori again, because if there is more than one language in the country, you will be tested on looking at documents that are written in that language and having to decipher them and all of that. And it's a timed exam. And I'm like, yeah, I really have to start taking lessons on that one. So that's going to be another one that's going to go on my list for probably going to start working on. Well, I can start working on on some of it now and getting it prepared. Because it's stuff that you can prepare and then submit it and that sort of thing. But yeah, when it comes to doing other languages and stuff, I'm going to have to start learning other languages, unless I go for England. But then I haven't been to any of the repositories in England where they have the records and things, and they prefer you having experience. I think they prefer you having experience on the ground in that area, wandering around, looking through records and all that sort of stuff, and seeing what records you can find. So it's going to be an interesting exercise. But England, Scotland, Ireland is on my list to go to, just doing pure genealogy things. So starting down in Cromwell with the records there for my ancestors that came from Cromwell, moving up to London, had ancestors that were born there, up into Huntingdonshire, which is now part of Cambridge, and finding parish records there. Also going to the National Public Office. I think it's Public Office. There's a National Registry place you can go to as well. Going up into Scotland to the area where the Ross clan is from, and studying records there. Going over to Ireland and finally cracking all these Irish relatives. I found another Irish relative the other day too. What was I researching? I was doing some search on, who was I searching? It was one of my second great-grandmothers. And she was born in New Zealand, but her father was from Ireland. And I'm like, oh, and it's on my dad's side of the tree. And I'm like trying to remember if it's on my dad's mother's side of the tree or my dad's father's side of the tree, because I know that my great aunt from my dad's mother's side of the tree have been talking with relatives in Ireland. Now I know that there's some there because her grandmother. So my great aunt's grandmother was born in, so my second great grandmother was born in the police barracks in Dublin, Ireland. And her father was Irish, but her mother was either Scottish or Irish. We're still trying to figure that one out. So that's a bit of a mystery. So there's probably Irish ancestry there from the cousins to my third great grandfather. But on the other side, oh, now I'm going to fret about this all day now. Let's see. Let's go in here real quick. Oh, she is on that side. So she's on my dad's mother's side of the family as well. So we've got a strong Irish connection there. But the interesting thing is on my DNA, on my autosomal DNA testing, it shows that I have more Irish on my mother's side of the family than on my father's side of the family, yet I haven't found anybody on my mother's side of the family that's been born in Ireland. I can't find any connection to them at all. So my great-grandparents, my dad's mother's parents, who are the only great-grandparents I ever got to meet, they both have Irish ancestry. So that's kind of cool. So my second great-grandmother, where were you born? Hello, come on. No. Oh, she was born in New Zealand, but it was her father that was born in Ireland. Where did her mother come from? Oh, she was English. Okay, so that's interesting. Yeah, so I have Irish on that side of the family. So yeah, the funny thing is that I have Irish on both sides of the family according to my DNA, but I haven't come across anybody on my mother's side of the family that was born in Ireland. I've got Scots through and through, Ross clan, all up there in Scotland. In fact, one of Mum's cousins did a trip up to Scotland one time, and he spent a lot of time up there researching the family while he was up there, and he came back with all this information and information and stuff, and gave me some copies of some of it. And but I haven't found the Irish connection on that side of the family yet. According to my DNA makeup, I have more Irish on my mother's side of the family than I do on my dad's side of the family. Huh. So now I have to figure that one out. But anyway, that's for another day. So those are projects that I can work on for this thing. But it's the question of, do I do New Zealand? Do I do England, Ireland, Scotland? So I need to go do some research in those other countries, boots on the ground, having a look at actual records, pulling the records up, looking at different things, making up my research plan so I know what records I want to ask for and have a look at, and then see what other records they have available. So it's all the stuff I've been learning in the last 2 years has helped me with this one, and then this one's going to help boost me forward into making more decisions on where I'm going to go with my genealogy. So, oh, and I told you I won a door prize today. What did you win? So they did a door prize, and they ran the names of each of the courses. So they've got like 12 or 13 courses going this year. And so there was one person from each course that they did the Wheel of Names from. And apparently my name came up because I got the email saying, here's the winners from the thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm on there. Course 3. I'm on there. Yes. What did I win? So what I won is a priority registration for 2024's class. And the priority registration is that we get, my understanding is, and this could be wrong, but my understanding is that in January, they're going to email us, because it said in the email that's what they're going to do, about registering for the 2024 IGHR week, which is what I'm on this week. And so there's like 12 to 13 of us, we get priority on the classes. So we get first dibs on any class we want to, which means on registration, when the registrations open up to everybody else, we're done. We don't have to worry about, can we get online, can we register and all that, or all my classes filled up. We get first pick. So I am super excited about that one. And I'm like, okay, what classes you got coming out next year? Because that's going to help me determine in which area I want to go with genealogy and things. So it's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to that. So I was super excited to find out about that. I was like, yay. Anyway, I'm out of here. I've done enough. I've got homework I got to go work on, which I have to have finished by 10 p.m. Central Time tonight, which is what, 8 p.m.? Yes, I got an hour and a half to finish it. I don't even remember what it's on. Wait, hang on. I have it tagged in my syllabus here. It is to do with, what section was this in? Oh yeah, government records. Panning government records. So we've got an ABC thingy to go through and have a look. And it's basically going through the government records and seeing if we can find what we're supposed to be looking for. That's basically it. And I've got a research project that I have to do based on a 1860 census. So that's going to be interesting. I love the census reports. I love the information that you can find on them. And you can see the and there's, you can see changes over the years where they bring in extra questions and things like that. Like one, I want to say it's 1910. I think it's 1910 on the US Census, where they ask the woman, how many children, how many pregnancies have you had, and how many are still living? So that's an interesting one, because that can help you. That can help you work out, do I have all the children listed on the family group sheet, or am I missing some? And so that can be useful information to find as well. But things like, putting on there, where were they born? Where were their parents born? What if they were born in the States, if they were born overseas, it would have the name of the country that they were born in. So it helps you find further records and that sort of stuff. And then I like going to the pages before and after, seeing who else was on that street that they asked questions to. Could they possibly, they're people of the same name that could possibly be related to the family that I'm looking at. Because there was oftentimes in some areas where families lived together on certain streets, or maybe a block away, but they were all within close walking distance of each other, whether they were on the same street or they were a block over. So it's all kind of interesting when you can look at the records and you can go backwards and forwards, and then you go back to the beginning of the census report there, and you see the enumerators notes of the abbreviations to use, how they basically have to record everything, and explain some of the questions and that sort of stuff. So it's really interesting pulling stuff out of census records. I love doing that. And was it the 1841 census in England? See, the US does every 0 year. England does every 1 year, every year ending in 1. And the 1841 census it listed the people in the household, but it did not list the relationship. It just listed their name, their age, male or female. I don't think it had occupation. Oh, it might have had occupation in there as well. But what it did is that the ages for anybody over the age of 15 ended in a 0 or a 5. So if you were like 29, it got rounded down to 25. So now there's a 5-year thing where you could have been born. They narrow you down to a 5-year window. But anybody from 15 and under, they had the exact age. And it wasn't until the 1851 census in England that they put everybody's ages as they were at the time of the census. But yeah, if you were 29, like if you were going to be turning 30 that year, and because it was done towards when was the 1841 done? It was either April or June. So if your birthday was in the later half of the year and you're going to be turning 30 later that year, but you're still at 29 at the time of the census, it was recorded at 25. So there's a little tidbit for you, which kind of screwed everything up. But also not having relationships on there, just having the names of people. You had no idea how they were related. Was it husband and wife and their children? Was it husband, somebody visiting and kids listed, and who did the kids belong to? It left up all sorts of questions and things like that too. So anyway, that's always interesting. It's always fun. It's unraveling the mysteries. Anyway, I'm out of here. Go have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6. Oh, actually, no, wait. Tomorrow is going to be, it'll be around 6:30, because we have a celebration which is supposed to end at 6 o'clock. So it's the closing ceremony of the week, even though we still got classes on Friday. So that is meant to finish around 6. So we'll be on at 6:30 tomorrow night. So go out and have a super fantastic sparkling evening. We'll see you guys back here at 6:30 tomorrow evening. Hey, konera.